Okay, so today we are going to be chipping my 1993 Honda Civic P06 ECU. This is pretty easy if you know what you're doing, and I must reiterate, you have to know what you're doing, or else you could seriously damage your ECU and prevent your car from running altogether. Now since this is actually supposed to be an informative YouTube channel where you do the right things the right way, what we're going to do first, before working on any electrical components on your car, you want to disconnect the negative terminal of the battery. Now normally I wouldn't do this, but since this isn't my YouTube channel and this is supposed to be informative, I'm going to go ahead and do it just to show you how. So what you saw me do is pop the hood. I'm sure you guys already know how to do this if you have a 93 Civic, probably in the hood a lot. Just like this. Everything is nice and hot because my car was just running, which means this is probably going to be painful. Now, the battery terminals, if you have stock ones, are just a 10mm bolt. You can take it off with a ratchet or a wrench. I'm just going to get all my tools. Okay, just like this. And you want to pull it off nice and quick so that you don't get any sparking, and just suspend that in the air somewhere. Okay, inside the car, here's the ECU. Your connectors, the big boy connectors, are going to be up at the top of the ECU. First, you're going to want to unbolt it. So this is a 10. There's going to be a 10 over here somewhere. Mine is definitely missing. I have one bolt in my ECU. That's nice. Okay, so normally there would be a 10 here, a 10 on the top right, a 10 on the top left, and a 10 on the bottom left. I think I only have a 10 on the bottom left. That is interesting. Curse the people who worked on this car before me. They were sketchy as hell. The wiring on this car before was so sketchy, I don't even want to talk about it. It was terrible, the wiring on this car. We had to tear all that out. Pretty sure you guys have seen that on the YouTube channel. So. Okay, there, finally got that bolt off. And now, yep, my ECU is just going to slide out just like that. And then the only thing holding it in right now are the connectors. And this little plate is removable somehow. I gotta figure out how to remove this plate. Okay, so the connectors are actually on the bottom side, my apologies. I have no idea how to remove this. Oh, I think it goes like this. I think it slides up. Nah, no way. God, this thing is like hepatitis C material. Jesus, okay. Well, this plate is protecting those connectors right there, and I need to take the plate off, which is done in an unknown way to me. It slides right off. Okay, beautiful. And now we're just going to disconnect the ECU connectors, just like this. These are locking connectors. I'll show you what that means after I get this whole unit out. There we go. That's really dusty. I'm going to clean that off. So if you can see here, what that means is there's a little tab on here, and you have to press it to get these connectors out. If you just yank on them, you're probably going to pull some wires out if you're really unlucky. And there are some chopped up wires here, which might explain my speedometer not working. I mean, the wires aren't chopped up, but they're electrical taped together. And from my previous experience on that car, it probably means that they're all kinds of messed up. Anyways, here's our ECU. I'm going to take you to my workbench and show you guys what to do. Come with me to another land. Okay, so we're here at my workbench, my ECU. This is a data logging cable. I'm not 100% sure how to solder this, like in which order the pins go. I'll figure it out before I do it though. So first what you're going to want to do is take both front and rear panels off, or face and back plate panels off if you will. It's just 5 screws in the same locations on both sides for a total of 10 screws. And probably don't lose these. Would be a good idea to not lose them. Here we go. That's the back of my ECU. And it's marked, so maybe it's been worked on before. Alright. We are in the ECU here. Beautiful. So if yours is an automatic, you'll have a transistor here and here. And if you have VTEC, you'll have components, or a transistor here and components over here. My engine does not have VTEC and I'm a manual, so I don't have any of that. You can do a modification to the ECU where you put the IC in here and all the components, and you can make your ECU run VTEC if you do a VTEC swapped engine or a mini-me swap with a VTEC head. Now, you can see right here, we have 27256. That is the name of the IC. This is an SST 27C512, which will work in this ECU. And you can see we have a socket here to solder in so we can remove the chip. And right here we have our CN2 connector. That is where this header will solder in, just like this, on pins 1 and 4. Pin 5 will go unpopulated. And then we have R54 right here. Your resistor, your high ohm resistor is going to go there. I'll tell you exact measurement once I remember the chart. And you have a jumper. Now, this is going to go in J1 right here. This tells your ECU chip to read from this. So if you don't have this, it won't read from your chip and it'll just use the stock tune. And if you do have this, it'll read from your chip and use the tune on your chip. So I'm going to test this, but I believe if you put a chip in here and you remove the jumper, then you will just be able to run it off the stock tune. I think. I hope that is the case. But yeah. Anyways, so here's our jumper. This can either be a piece of wire or a resistor, as I said. And then along here, you have your C52. You're going to put a capacitor there. C53, I believe. I'm going to have to look that up to see where this one exactly goes, because mine is a little bit corroded. So, yeah. And then your 74HC737 goes in here. Mind the orientation on these chips. You can see there's a little indentation pattern in here. There's an indentation here and an indentation here. That is the orientation of your chip. So that will align on this chip with a little dot in it. So that goes this way. And on this chip, it's covered by this nice, fancy, ugly ass sticker. But here you can see in this side, let me focus it a little bit. In this side, there's an indentation, which means it goes this way. So I am just going to get to cleaning up all of these joints. I use leaded solder, the good stuff. Let me show you guys my nice trick solder holder that I 3D printed, that I designed too. I use leaded solder in rolls. So a soldering technique I like to use is when you're trying to wick out a bunch of solder, you want to just add some of your own to each joint here. And once you do that, it'll be a lot easier to wick out all of your own solder. And I'm going to use some nice high quality solder wick. You don't have to have the best stuff in the world for this, but I work as a technician, so I have pretty darn good stuff already. And a nice industry secret, well, it's not a secret, but it's a good trick. Put a little bit of solder on your iron and then melt that into your wick, and it'll make it a lot easier to use once you first start. I already have some solder on my wick, so I don't have to do that. But if your wick was dry, that's a really good way to just get that initial heat transfer into your wick, and it'll make it a lot easier to wick up stuff. But let me put this in. Well, are any of these bent? No, they're all pretty true. Okay. Let's get that side seated down. And on that side. And what I'm going to do is, since that one doesn't want to... Let's throw a piece of solder on there. Since that one doesn't want to desolder, I'm just going to heat it up while putting some pressure on this, and it'll slide right into place. Okay, so I've got the DIP socket soldered in. You can see on the back here, those solder joints looking mighty fine. Area around the board is not my best, I'm not gonna lie, but it's alright, it should be okay. I double checked that no pins are touching together, are soldered together, and I'm just gonna give this a little bit of a clean, just so that I don't look like a complete idiot. This board has like no solder protect barrier on it. Most boards do. And this one has either none or not enough, because the solder just went straight onto the board. Okay, now we can solder the latch into place, minding the orientation. It slots in this way. Gotta bend this. There, so I've slotted the chip into place, minding the orientation, and now I'm just going to solder all of the pins in, and hopefully this is just going to keep itself in until I can solder. Okay, now we have to put the jumper resistor and the resistor in place, which are these two. So you have the big capacitor here, C14. Okay, now I just gotta find out where this big old electrolytic capacitor goes. Oh, this is just a main ECU capacitor. This is this. That's interesting. That's a big difference. Okay, so I have it all back together, and now I'm going to go flash a tune into my ECU. I'm with the iron for now. Shake it off. I'm going to put the back plate back on. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording and go tune this ECU. Bye. Okay, so I got a tune loaded on the chip. That was a little bit stressful because it wouldn't save, and then it wouldn't save, and then it wouldn't save more, and then it wouldn't save even more. But I finally got it. So I'm going to go ahead and put the chip in. Hopefully. Yeah, there we go. Probably gonna have to bend it back a little bit. And there. The chip is in. And I'm just gonna, oh, can't, okay. Yeah, nothing is shaking in there. Okay, we're probably good. So I'm going to go put it into my car, then connect the battery, then try and fire up my car, all while crossing my fingers to an extreme scale, because there was just a lot of sketchiness going on with this thing not wanting to write. I think I got it. I hope I got it, is what we're gonna go with here. So there we go. There we go. There we go. And we're just gonna have my ECU facing upwards like that. Well, I'm actually gonna tap this on while looking in there if I can. Okay. Everything looks good. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this on, tighten it up. Now, with any bit of luck, the engine will fire up, and I am shedding nails right now. I am so nervous. This is nuts. I have never been this nervous in my life, I don't think. There is a very real possibility that nothing will happen. It'll just turn over and nothing will happen. There's also the very real possibility that I'll flip the ignition switch and it'll blow up. Kind of hoping that doesn't happen, but we're gonna test it right now. Okay, we're gonna turn everything off here. Okay, we have lights. Let's try and start it then. Okay, so I did forget to disable a couple sensors that were for engine sim use only, and these engines don't actually have any of those sensors, so I'm just going to go ahead and try and crank it over again, and my check engine light should go away. Nothing is going to blow up, and it's going to be okay. It seemed to be running okay, and the idle was a bit advanced, but it's probably fine. I'm gonna go for a gentle test drive just to make sure the thing ain't broke, and I will get back to you guys after that test drive. Bye. I remember approximately 3 months ago when I said I would get back to you after a test drive, and then promptly never did. So this is me getting back to you. And we got some future videos. This is exhaust gasket material, so you'll be seeing a video on that. And this is a cherry bomb. You will definitely be seeing a video on this. It's relatively quiet. So I think it'll sound nice. Nobody else does. And that's fine, because when it sounds nice, they're gonna be like, ooh, wow. So I remember I left you guys off. I had a check engine light, and the reason I left you guys off was because I was really busy figuring out that check engine light. And I finally figured it out after a long time. Now my ECU is all up in there, so I won't be able to show you guys the ECU. Here's the deal. When I soldered the socket on, it had really flimsy thin pins. So when I soldered the socket on, what happened is I bent one of the pins inward, so it wasn't making contact with the actual PCB, like the actual contact point that it's supposed to solder into. So what was happening is I put that jumper in, the jumper that tells the ECU to read off of the chip. I put that jumper in telling the ECU to read off the chip, and to the ECU it looked like there was no chip because it was not contacting that one pin. And I had headache for a long time trying to figure that out. And also what doubled up is that pin was bent inwards and was contacting another pin. So I cut the jumper and still had a check engine light 0. The code was 0. And you can check that by bridging the 2-pin connector up in here right next to your ECU and just turn the ignition on without actually turning over the engine, and your check engine light will blink a certain code. But if it stays solid, that stands for a code 0. And I had that, and code 0 stands for ECU. So obviously I knew the problem was in the ECU after I had just done all that work to it. So I desoldered the socket, found the problem, soldered the socket back on, and voila, it worked fine. And I also made some modifications to the job I did. For that jumper where you have to jump the place to use your own tune, I actually put a little 2-pin male header on it, and I keep this jumper in my car so I can plug that in and it'll run off of my own custom tune. And when I don't have this in, it's running on the stock tune. I would highly suggest you guys do that too. That was definitely extremely useful to me. And after all that, I got it tuned. Well, I tuned it. I don't have the air-fuel ratio gauge. Hopefully I'm getting that for Christmas. Really hopefully, because it's really expensive. And yeah, so after I get that, and after I get my laptop fixed, or a new laptop because the screen got stepped on or something and it's really broken, I'll be able to show you guys a video on how to tune it, like a tuning 101 video. And when I have that cherry bomb on, I'll run it off the tune I made. I already have a tune. It's really rudimentary. It's super, super rich because I don't know what the engine's running, so I'm just trying to be as safe as possible when I'm on that tune. But it definitely does the poppy bang thing very severely, like a lot. So I think I might just temporarily run it on that tune for a video when I have the new muffler on. And yeah, and basically the future for this muffler is I have this old pipe that has this huge hole rusted in it. That was from my old one before I replaced it. And I think I'm just gonna cut it like right here and weld the cherry bomb onto it. That way I have a recessed, whatever it's called, nozzle, exhaust tip, so Mr. Copman can't see the red ass muffler and be like, oh, is that stock? Yeah, that'll be fun. Anyways, so yeah, that's the finale to that video, and hopefully at some point in the future there will be a video on tuning it. I suspect I'll be able to do that around Christmas time, well, around after Christmas time. And that should be a good fun video for you guys to watch. It should be good fun for me too, because I'll finally be able to run the tune and not get terrible gas mileage. I literally get like 5 miles to the gallon on that tune. It like defeats the purpose of owning such a small engine. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. See ya.